So there's these two ends of the spectrum when it comes to the social media universe, and on one side we have people that are just trying to get as much content as possible out there, incredibly prolific. They're posting and putting videos and all this kind of stuff, so they would be on the louder end of the spectrum. And then on the other end of the spectrum we have people who are experienced, who have genuine, credible results that they've helped people to accomplish, and are able to create very deep and very lasting change. And you're somebody who I think is very much on that side of the spectrum. In my observation and my experience of working with you, you have this I don't know if it's ability or if it's just experience or some combination of that when you say something, it's such a zinger for people that it really causes them to think differently about themselves, about their value, of what they're doing. So these two ends of the spectrum are not necessarily mutually exclusive. Just because somebody is in the transformation, really deep part of the world doesn't mean they can't be over here. Although frequently people that are on the end of the spectrum where they're just loud and they want to be the craziest and they want to get that message out there, frequently it's because they don't have anything of quality to say. So I just, when we first started talking about this conversation, I would just really love to hear your thoughts about, because you're kind of like you're like Bigfoot. Like people can talk about, hey, I saw a Bigfoot, and people go, oh no shit, like he saw Bigfoot. But people don't post selfies with Bigfoot. People don't go and just hang out with Bigfoot all day long. And so I would just love to hear your thoughts on, what's it like to be Bigfoot in the consulting industry?
And yet here we are. On a selfie.
On a video.
Yep.
Yeah, which who knows, maybe this could be released, by secret.
So when you say what does it mean to be Bigfoot in the industry, besides like running into the woods when people come around, what other specific questions do you have?
Well, because you are one of those, how many people claim to be a millionaire maker, they claim to get radical results, and yet you are someone who does that. You actually do get radical results, and as we've talked about, the results that you help people to achieve are so unrealistic in most people's minds that it just occupies the realm of fantasy, i.e. Bigfoot. Right. They don't believe that you can take somebody who is literally making $5 or $6 or $10 or $15,000 a month, and all of a sudden they start having $15,000 days, resulting in six-figure or multiple six-figure months, not 5 years down the road after they've built their funnel and they've done all these other things, but like immediately. And I've experienced the impact of that in my own business. So when I'm talking about Bigfoot, that's
perfect. I think one of the things that causes that change is, first of all, working primarily. I'd love to say working solely, but that never happens. The things that always and never happen are never true. But working primarily with people who are themselves ready for that change, because I think it's a shift inside themselves. Not exactly sure that the universe or divine power or God gives us the capacity to create such an impact that we generate those types of results and then continue to generate for the long term without some sort of good stewardship, both of the rewards we're going to get for that, the money, and also for the being responsible for the share that we're going to give. And I think that one of the reasons in my observation that people fail to make the money as quickly as they sometimes then shift to do is that when people are seeking the money so that they can then provide the transformation, a simple shift is, well, let me go find people that I can help with this transformation, knowing that the money is going to follow soon behind. And they're almost always attached, but the desire for service has to precede the desire for income, with the confidence that the income's going to always come in. So that's a big deal, because I think a lot of people, you mentioned being prolific, and a lot of people seek to garner a lot of attention and praise, and those are in and of themselves payoffs. And so, there may be some people who are more prolific that are getting rewarded to the same degree as others who may seem to be less prolific. One's getting results and for their clients and getting paid, and one is working actually more to achieve a celebrity status, so they're getting admiration from their clients and they're getting paid. So I think many times we're all getting paid pretty similarly. Just many people, by the time they gather to themselves all the non-monetary currencies, there's really not a lot of space in our life left over for money. Money kind of comes into a life for long term for the people who have the space for it.
So that's really interesting, and that brings up two thoughts. First one is, do you think that the person that is collecting likes and shares and comments and all of that, do you think that they are telling themselves that this is what precedes the money, that I'm becoming known, I'm becoming famous, so right around the corner is when all the money's going to hit? Do you think that that's an illusion that people
it's
operate
very
under?
actively taught. So I would imagine most people are telling themselves that, or many people are telling themselves that.
Staggers me.
Because that is actually, if you look, there are many teachings that say if you increase your number of likes, and there never is that direct correlation, but that is then a measure of success. This goes back a number of years in the industry, but if your Alexa ranking on your site is, if your site is more visited than others, then that's something to aspire to. If you're the second most searched long tail term on, for Kevin Nations is the new Bigfoot. I think if we put something like this, actually post it, we should have it definitely ranked number one for the search terms. Kevin Nations is the new Bigfoot.
Is the new Bigfoot.
Because if it does that, then there's going to be some tremendous money coming from it. So actually, I do think that a lot of people think or have the perception that if they garner a lot of likes, then they're going to basically, from all of those likes, generate income at some point. I've found the converse to be true.
Absolutely, and that was probably one of the biggest things that first put you on my radar, because I remember years ago reading about or hearing about how Gary Halbert would talk about hits. People excited about hits to their website when everybody had a website, and his acronym for that was How Idiots Track Success.
Oh, wow.
And I thought, that's genius. Like I've just, mostly because I never had that much technological savvy, I just really cared about people and I wanted to teach people. And so you having this contrarian philosophy that, cool, go chase the likes and go chase the shares and comments, but when it comes time to provide for your family and you really want to do something about that, then there's another way.
Well, I'd argue that it's the other people that have the contrarian philosophy, since this one works better.
Touche.
I mean, seriously, I've had the word contrarian used in contrast, or in a descriptive sense of the work that I do, but I'm not sure that I ascribe to that, because when we're in conversations, usually when you look at results, people will say, well, this works better, and I would like to offer up the possibility that what works better is the philosophy and the others are the contrarian philosophies.
All right, that makes sense. So that's a perfect example. What you just said right there, I think, is a perfect example of what first prompted even this whole video even coming together, is because those messages that are to you absolutely common sense,
right,
common in your world, common in the results, and I mean, even just getting to hang out with you the last couple of days, and Melissa and Marshall and all of this.
And Midas, let's not forget
let's
baby
not
girl.
forget Midas, your dog, who has approximately half the number of likes on her Facebook page as I do. So
Right.
Maybe you can monetize those.
She's a good soul. I don't think we want to monetize that. We just want to let her love everybody that comes around.
Yeah, well, I've watched you and this entire experience in the last day and a half accomplish more by doing less, and I believe in that and I practice that. But watching somebody who is in your position, that message that you just shared, that hey, I'm not a contrarian, that by itself, if people rewind or track back on this video and actually let that sink in and go back and play that 10 times, and then look at how their actual behavior is showing up differently, that by itself could unlock a whole lot of things for people. And that's where I think that's where if Bigfoot were to start posting a video once in a while, it'd be really interesting.
I'm going to grow my beard out too now. Be Bigfoot.
There's a market for that. Interesting. So for these philosophies that you practice and that you teach in the family and that you allude to on Facebook, but you obviously have a responsibility to people who are committed to themselves and committed to producing results for their clients and their families. So what does somebody do with that? I mean, do you think people just reach a level where they just experience enough consequences that are undesirable and they say, well, shoot, I got to do something? And is that, in your experience, is that when you typically get a phone call?
I get phone calls completely randomly for a variety of different reasons. I think it may be them seeing someone who they're close to has gotten great success, and that might inspire a lot of different reactions that cause them to reach out. It could inspire envy, which is a perfect, stimulus. It might inspire a little bit more confidence. Now they've seen it happen more closely to home. It might inspire them having a conversation. But I would venture a guess that probably 75% of my clients either come as a direct referral or having observed closely the experience of someone or having someone talk about their success working with me. And I don't really know exactly why that is, but I don't really seek to know either. I enjoy that because those people are, in totality, I feel like they're a lot more committed than people who may be following a marketing message that could be far, by its incompleteness of communication, could be far more easily misunderstood than having someone say, no, this is what really happened.
Interesting.
I grew up a Christian and still aspire to a lot of the teachings, and Christ was having a hard time. He was a Bigfoot, right? And he's having a hard time to describe who he was, and so he called his closest confidant Peter aside one time, and he said, well, who do you think I am? And Peter's like, well, these people say you're this. He's like, okay, shut up just for a minute. Who do you say that I am? Peter's like, no, well, these other people say that you're this. He's like, well, I'm not interested in that. And I think a lot of times in mass marketing, we're trying to work to have, like, the masses have a certain opinion of us, and really the only people that matters to us are the clients and those who are predestined to become clients in the next day, week, or month, because to have an opinion prior to that is almost irrelevant. You don't want to be rude or obnoxious or create a opinion of disdain, but you don't want to work to create anything else, because if an opinion isn't preceding an action, it's simply going to be, once again, kind of cluttering up the thought processes of those people. So the only opinions that matter are the opinions that are preceding an action, that action being either to let's do something together or to erase me from the radar screen and say, I have an opinion now and I know clearly this isn't someone that I need to work with.
And you're not shy about that, and you empower people to make a decision that they feel is right for them, having experienced that. And
to trust that decision.
Yeah.
The worst conversations I ever have with someone when they talk to me about working with me, however closely or casually, is to say, I know I'm going to hate myself for this. I do hear that sometimes. That precedes many people's decisions because they are probably not making a decision, but they're taking an action that's incongruent with their mental decision. So they've mentally decided, I'm going to go straight ahead, but in practice then they run to the left or to the right, or they've mentally decided to do something other than what they're going to practically act on. And so that's the most frustrating thing that I hear. If you hear a clear yes or a clear no, that's always like music, either one. Or someone's happy with their choice.
It's a verbal Bigfoot.
It is a verbal Bigfoot.
It's kind of rare.
It's the Bigfoot video.
This is the Bigfoot video. So when I look at everything that I endeavor to teach, and in some way, shape, or form, what I've always been about is this core message that people innately are enough, like as a creation of God, as a product of the universe, as a formerly non-physical, now physical thinking being, that there's an inherent enoughness in that. And I would like to think that the majority, everything that I'm sharing is about that. When I first came into your when our spheres started circling, and then I started working with you, it was really an epiphany for me, is to see how compatible and how supportive your methodology was in terms of building a business model and really just thinking about business was completely compatible with what I always thought was kind of this outlier philosophy. And I experienced a lack of support, not opposition necessarily, but certainly a lack of understanding or lack of support when I was doing just marketing the way that I felt I should do it.
Right.
And people started calling me, "Hey, you're this great internet marketer." I'm like, "Dude, I am not an internet marketer. Take that back." It was like, "How dare you call me an internet marketer?" And I have a lot of respect for people in the industry, but the industry itself, there's a lot of transactional folks. So, question for you: if somebody's watching this and they say, yeah, but what I do is different. Like, I've got this really unique thing that I empower people with, and I don't know if I can make that much money, or they're so hypnotized into, I'm so special, my message is so special. Not that it's not, but then what do you say to that person who really wants to grow? They want to build a bigger business, and yet they've pigeonholed themselves to say, well, my stuff is really, really, really unique.
So I would invite them just to consider the following restatement of what they're saying and see if it lands true. I'll submit that they're special, but not to the exclusion of others, but to the inclusion of others. Like, we're all special, as you mentioned. We're all created awesomely. Some of us communicate better than others. Some of us were meant to lead. Some of us were meant to pave the way for leaders, and some of us were meant to follow the leaders and do great things as followers. But if they're saying, my message or my mission is so, and I'll now make a word transition. If my mission is so great that sovereign being can't see value in it, or that the majority of the sovereign beings can't see value, it's been designed to be so great that the world cannot see value in it, or even a small percentage of the world, because the number of clients, I'm serving maybe 100 clients right now. So it's not really like the masses that need find my message valuable, and we generate millions and millions of dollars with in the low three figures of clients, sometimes barely over the mark of three figures. Then if they're saying, my message is so special that no one can find, or my message is so valuable, let's use those two words because there's such an incompatibility. My message is so valuable that people cannot see the value in it. Then for whom is it to be delivered? And so if it really creates a result that is valuable, there are people who will pay for those results. They either have decided that their market is somehow destined to inferiority, and also that their message does not remedy that inferiority. That would be one possibility for no one paying. The market I'm seeking is destined for inferiority, and I'm seeking to perpetuate that inferiority so that they would never be able to pay, or that I'm proclaiming something that no one can aspire to. But a leader that doesn't create change in his or her followers, and I'll just stop. A leader that doesn't create motion in his or her followers, maybe a leader only in the space of their own mind. Because if we're actually a leader in the world, then there will be followers. And if we're a valuable leader, then there will be valuable followers. And so I think just natural law answers that question. And I would, invite people to pause and reflect and ask themselves, do I now have, the singular exception to natural law?
That's beautiful. And I think it sums up the accessibility of your philosophy.
Yeah. They may say, I don't know how, which that invites a wholly new question. That's the most beautiful statement one can make, is I don't know how to X, because then you can ask what I think is the world's most beautiful question. How can I, and state the achievement that you want without whatever frustration you've been experiencing. And, if you just state that, then if you do have this great understanding, and I will presuppose that that's true, of life and of things of life, then it'll also kind of move over into this area and help you find something. I don't really see natural law or divine order as some sort of sadist, such that it would, endow someone with a superior ability,
right?
Encourage them to go share it with the world, and then prohibit anyone from hearing the message.
Restrict you from being able to express it. That would be some sort of cosmic practical joke.
It would be.
So with your, and that's one of the best questions that I've ever heard. How can I accomplish whatever I'm desiring without experiencing an increase in resistance, or in fact experience a decrease in resistance? How can I get that? And freedom, I think, is something that is spoken to often. People claim that they want it, they are attracted to it. My own understanding of freedom is that it's a two-sided coin. There's freedom from, and there's freedom to. Your question includes both of those freedoms. And would you say that there are entrepreneurs out there, marketers out there, business people out there who are primarily focused on one or the other, that they're actively seeking freedom to do something? I want to make more money, I want to express my message, I want to get my vision out there, and yet in the doing of that, they're also taking on all this extra weight and complexity that they shouldn't?
Freedom's an interesting topic. I think one of the challenges that people have with freedom is many of the freedoms that they have are not necessarily self-generated thought. So, I want to be free to do the things that make you like me more. I want to be free to do the things that make me look successful, which is just a graduate, as the old cliche says, out of the frying pan into the fire.
Right.
Because, I was held captive by less money, but now I'm held captive by your opinion. So, which is actually better? And I think that, in my mind, true freedom is, in my experience and in my expression, true freedom is feeling what you want on a daily basis, and then living a life that generates that, back. Now, we do make some pacts and some covenants, marriage, business partnerships, debt, if we make that, commitments, contracts. We make those commitments, and we're bound under the terms and for the time of those commitments, and some are for, for life. But absent, honoring our commitments, our freedom should be to pursue, the daily experiences that we want. And I think freedom to inspire approval from someone else isn't freedom at all.
So if you look back over at the time of this recording, over the last couple of years, that we've really seen the family mastermind really take off, and you're continuing to grow, and you're doing so many things, and you've got a move that's imminent and an upgrade that's imminent in your own life. So fast forward 3, 4, 5 years down the road, where do you see yourself, and where do you see the people that you're in a position to serve, or who do you see yourself serving down the road?
I love today. I really love today. The best thing I could think about doing in my life ever, seriously, is like this conversation. Because everything in the past has already been done. I'm so grateful for the people who are a part of the family. I watch them have success, and as we've already talked about, sometimes they have those initial breakthroughs really, really quickly, and there are more and more and more depths. But what I want to do in 3 years what I want to do in 5 years, what I want to do in 50 years is wake up and enjoy the day, whatever day, 3 years from now, 5 years from now, 50 years from now,
Right.
enjoy that day as much as I enjoyed today. That's really all I want. I don't want anything more complex than that. I mean, we are growing income-wise, and I have set, specific numeric financial goals, but typically, and this could change at any moment, and I'd be so open for the fact that maybe, finances and a lot of finances wasn't part of the new joy going forward. But I wake up and I enjoy my days. You've been here a couple of days. Like I've had I give as much value to sitting through an hour and a half long game of Settlers of Catan and watching the joys of each person as they, think they're going to win,
as they
only to
lose to
have
your
them be
wife.
squashed by Melissa's diabolical playing, as I do to, had I sold 5 people into the family yesterday.
Right.
And it's not a statement. I checked in with that as I said it. I just like living every minute. We played some music last night, sang not as well as we played.
Melissa sang better.
Melissa sang well. Sang not as well as we played, but played some music last night. Like every minute of every day, I just want to enjoy for real. And for me, like that's the highest level of wealth possible. The others is more of a numbers game, but for me, like the numbers don't do as much as just the living of the days. Numbers are fun, but they don't even come close.
So what I hear in that, Kevin, is that you're really, besides being focused on truly being present, not giving modern spiritual lip service to being present or planning to be present at some point later on, you're actually practicing presence.
I guess so, because like it's
now
a daily thing. And we're talking, and that's fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that tomorrow will be as good as today. You made a mention of a medical observation a couple of days back in a
Yeah.
conversation we had,
Yeah.
where medically, people said if people could only live another 10 years, beginning right now in 2015, if people could only live another 10 years, then there'd be, within that 10 years, medical breakthroughs that may enable them to live yet another 10 years, and on and on and on for a period of time that's far beyond what anybody that's on the planet now could imagine.
Right. So far, that period of time is not defined.
Yep. And I think that's pretty much the same about, success. People have this vision of the day they're going to be successful. When the girl finally says yes to go out with me, or when I buy that car that my best friend from high school just bought and I'm able to drive it as my own, or when I'm able to make a high ticket sale, or but I think the thing that attracts the car and attracts the girl and attracts the money, or at least has been in my experience, I have been really fortunate in all three. I think I've got the best of all three of those worlds. And I just mentioned those three, and would love to experience other things. Is I don't think that the success, I don't think that they brought the success. I think they were attracted to the success. And I think and this is going to go off because this is stated in its, as I thought this thought, and delaying saying it because it's so much is used as a cliche spiritual platitude. But to be truly happy with oneself is the ideal of success. It's like it is the zenith. There's not another mountaintop to climb, and you can go then and you can, climb all sorts of other mountains and conquer things and put your flag in them. And yes, $1 million net worth, $5 million net worth. Great wife, great fiance, now great girlfriend, great wife, now great fiance. New Hyundai, new Mercedes, new Rolls Royce, 5-bedroom house, 10-bedroom house, all of these things. Kid gets into private high school, kid goes to Harvard, kid becomes doctor, kid loves mom and brings back flowers, all of these things. But those things, in my view, are meant to bring joy. And if joy is already present, then, those things aren't necessary to complete you. Like you're already complete.
Right.
And so if you're searching for those things to complete you, that is an advertisement that you're not complete. And when you advertise you're not complete, that tarnishes your attraction factor at that moment. So that's my thoughts on that.
When are you going to say something valuable, Kevin? Because I just was kind of hoping that anybody watching this would have their life changed. Totally kidding. That was genius, dude. So you are what that just brings up all sorts of stuff. And what I'm hearing in that is, the whole wave of law of attraction and so many things that you just said could easily be heard by someone who wanted to just dabble into metaphysical. They wanted to stay in the quote unquote spiritual realm. And yet what I just heard in that, and which I can verify in my experience of you and of hanging out with you and seeing how you actually live, not just teach, which for a lot of people is two different things. What I hear in that is that because you place an emphasis on joy, and because joy and well-being is so much part of your active daily focus, and that's something that's really important to you, that the reason why we're recording this video from your current home, Las Vegas, which I don't even know how many bedrooms this place has. I've counted like 7. I don't know how many there actually are. The Rolls Royce.
There's enough right now for you and Marshall and Melissa and I.
Apparently.
So that's enough right now.
Yeah. And that's the key. It's enough. The Rolls Royce that we took to lunch yesterday, the woman that you have attracted into your life, and the husband that she's attracted into hers. All of those external reflections of your inner priority are what a lot of people, what I think, love to say, well, that's the law of attraction. And yet, what I've also observed you do is that you don't just stay in the law of attraction. I would call it the law of traction, where you actually have some purchase in your actions moving forward. And when you make decisions, you make them very quickly. I literally watched you take what you were about to put on some sort of vision board type thing, and in the time that it took you to verbalize the thought, you're on the phone, and Melissa's on the phone to the realtor, and you're making it a done deal.
Yep.
And I mean, that was so awesome to watch that, where I think many people would just veer off into the world of intention and the world of, well, let me just make it real inside. But your time period between making it real on the inside and making it real on the outside is like one after the other. It's very, very intriguing to see that happen.
The law of attraction is incomplete without the law of rejection, and they're not taught together. I'm all for the law of attraction, but the law of attraction is basically, without the law of rejection, is like living on a dirt floor with mud and dirt on the floor with tall ceilings, because you have an expansive view of what's possible. You have plenty of space and everything like that, but you're still walking around. First curse word of the thing, in shit. And so, many people, they have these expansive views of what they want to achieve, but they don't have a floor of what they're willing to tolerate. And so they derive some sort of endorphin type benefit for putting something onto a vision board. But you could just as easily call where you're going to move to, as easily as you could go down to the Walgreens and buy the magazine that has the picture of the location, and then go back to the craft section and buy the poster board and the glue and put it on there. You could have called the real estate company. And I don't even mean you could have moved into a big home. Maybe, the place you want to move to, you move to a 1-bedroom apartment first, but it's on the beach or it's on the mountain or it's wherever you want to be, and then migrate up from that. So it's not necessarily about quantity, it's about quality. And so if you decide you want to move somewhere, move there. If you decide you want to, be in a relationship with someone, pursue that and, enjoy the beauty of getting rejected or accepted. But then, learn from that and continue to move on. If you want to take on a particular type of business venture, take it on. Go have 15 people tell you no thank you. And then some of the reasons why people don't buy. If you want to, have a particular skill, then immediately begin as an apprentice somewhere in that skill set. So, you mentioned it was a law of attraction, but for me, like the law of rejection is that once I've seen the possibility of something, every day that I'm not actually living with that is a day that I'm telling myself I'm not worthy of the thing I've just had a vision for. Now, we've decided we wanted to move about like a week ago to Puerto Rico. We heard about the opportunity and learned about the benefits and things of moving there maybe 2 weeks ago. And so within the last week we decided, and I'm willing to tolerate, because of schedules and ability to get Midas taken care of from now until Monday. We're recording this on a Tuesday. But in 6 days, I will sign papers on property, barring any massively unforeseeable event. I'll sign papers on a property, and Melissa's already talked to the attorneys about fast tracking driver's license and residencies and things like that, and I'll have a meeting in 6 days with the attorneys, and that stuff will be done. Because if our actions reinforce our expectations. If something is always taken, no one ran the 4-minute mile, so no one could run the 4-minute mile. Then someone ran the 4-minute mile, and the expectation was then that people could then break that. And so if your expectation is that if you have a dream and then 30 years from now it comes true, or if you have a dream and 10 years from now it comes true, then that's the expectation you'll live into, and you'll pace yourself to your expectations. Well, I want to continue to raise those for myself. And so if we want something, I want to become clear on our decision. But then if it's a clear decision, I want to go get it. Because that not only impacts the having of that thing, and that could be an experience or a relationship. It doesn't mean necessarily consumer things, but the having of that thing, it not only impacts that, but it shapes how I think from there in the future of what's possible. If I choose to want something, then I choose to have something, then I can have it in 6 days, no matter what it is. That's a completely different, that opens yourself up for a completely different pace.
It's a different reality.
And then if I want something, I vision board it, I talk about it on stage for 5 years as something that's imminent and coming, continually changing the year of when it's going to happen, to reflect my inaction. I just like changing the time frame, and I found you can pretty much do what you want. You can pretty much do what you want. If you don't have it, you probably don't want it.
So what I hear in that is that abundance is not a mindset; it's a standard of behavior.
Abundance could be a mindset, but it has to include the rejection of what is now. You can't say that you want to be a millionaire as long as you're happy being a 10,000-aire. Or as long as you're comfortable not taking action to get you outside that. You can't say that you want to be. I literally was single for 10 years, and I wrote in April of 2013 that clearly I do want to be with one person, and put it into a subset of the family that we were having some really deep conversations about faith, family, fitness, and finance. And I just wrote an update one day, and I said, I'd like to say the family thing is awesome, but I choose to be in a relationship with one person. And I put it out there literally like a year from then, Melissa and I were engaged, like 13 months from then. We were engaged. And so I think that, do I think that I caused that to happen? Perhaps not. But do I think that I prevented that from happening in the years prior? Absolutely. It wasn't a focus. It wasn't, no matter how much I gave lip service to it, it wasn't until I made some sort of public declaration with consequences to me, that I actually set myself up to be the person who was ready for that.
It's powerful. Bigfoot has spoken. And we're going to keep having fun with that, because there are always going to be people that will exercise their freedom to justify where they're at and take everything you just said, no matter how many times they'll listen to it, and they will make themselves the exception. What is your feeling around your personal responsibility to do anything about that? I think I know the answer, but I'm interested on your take.
Well, I have a dear friend and client who teaches a premise called Tugboats and Lighthouses. And, some people feel like personal responsibility is to go, out and implore and literally grip people. by force, I guess, to bring them, to rectify the wrong in the universe and the wrong in the world. What do I feel is my responsibility? To not be tarnished as a lighthouse, to use that friend and mentor, client, both is you. So not be tarnished, to not be any shorter than is necessary to reach the people I should reach. So if there's a need for extra height, that I put for the lighthouse in the analogy to be seen, that I put the diligence into that. I need to not ever act in a way that would cause someone that was doubting this to gain credence for that. So, it's very important not to act out of integrity. Do I always act in integrity? No, a human. But it's very important to get that feedback, and much like an airplane, as soon as you're like 1 degree out of alignment, to bring that in, rather than defending 1 degree, then 2 degrees, then 10 degrees, and finally you're in Canada when you were headed to Mexico. And saying, oh, well, I can right the course at some point. So I think the most important thing for me to be is, a living example that this is an achievable task for people. We were in the Caribbean, and we were on like this 120-foot yacht, just Melissa and I, for almost a month. Great life. This boat pulled up beside us that literally overshadowed us. Twice as tall, 3 times as long, and so obviously those boats are Googleable. And it was like the 27th longest privately owned boat anywhere in the world. So it was big. And so I started, searching, and I found out the gentleman who owned it, and he was an older gentleman. And so I immediately think, silver spoon. And he began by borrowing $30,000 to buy a bulldozer. And then began to, build as a road contractor, and his wife continued to support him while they grew their company. As a school teacher, she was a school teacher. So school teachers whose unemployed husband goes and buys a bulldozer and begins a company, buys 300-foot long yacht, and has a net worth of like $8 billion. So then obviously he's done something, incorrect, wrong. And I literally, I found myself in that same area of, didn't identify at the time, but I did afterwards, searching for judgment. How is he, I'm working as hard as he is. Obviously he has a leg up. And it was a very great day for me, because everywhere I went, well, obviously then he's done this. Everywhere I looked, well, then he's not spent money on philanthropy, and he'd just given like 140 acres to start this children's ranch or something. And I'm looking, and I'm like, if I don't, and it may not be destiny for me to achieve, an $8 billion net worth, because just mathematically, but if I don't have that same level of choice at his age, maybe even before, because he's set an example, as the rate of change grows, the generations before of us set an example for even faster growth. I've never had to get on a bulldozer myself, right. For wealth, and then leverage from there. I've not had to do that. And so if I'm not to the same level of accomplishment, whether numerically it's the same or not, by that age, I have no one but myself to blame. And I look, and he's like, gives to charity, like hundreds of millions of dollars to charity, happy marriage, still very, very fit. Like every element of the 4 F's that I looked at, which are my 4 metrics, seems to be very sound, very respected. And, I think that shadow that his yacht cast over ours earlier this year was a really telling day for me, because it was just, we sometimes get so caught up in looking at the people, comparing ourselves with the people who are behind us, that we forget to hold ourselves to the greatest sense of responsibility for the present. And that doesn't mean just aspiring to those people ahead of us, but those people ahead of us do give us some sort of opportunity to have a law of attraction, and say, well, if they can do it, then I can do it. But also have the law of rejection, like I need to find out what they're doing that I'm not doing. Right. And it's most likely not evil, or most likely not devious, and it's most likely not illegal. It's most likely not defensible that I'm not living to my greatest capacity.
It's potent, man.
Yeah. It was a day. I'll have to admit, I would have liked to have gone into Judgment that day, because we were out. We were probably one of the biggest boats in the harbor at that time. There were some sailboats and things coming through, and I was quite enjoying my perch.
Yeah.
Until
Yeah.
it was completely overshadowed
Interesting.
by a gentleman.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it sounds like that's the constant invitation that you're always seeking out. You're always allowing yourself to be challenged, not in a competitive sense necessarily, but from a place of real inspiration and real questioning about why not.
Mm-hmm.
Incredible. Amazing. Good stuff, man.
Thanks, man.
I don't know who is going to end up watching this or where they are in their life when they are, but I can't imagine anybody not watching this and taking these words to heart. And I think it's a good thing.
Well, thanks for deciding to sit down and chat
How can you
with
not, man?
Bigfoot.
with Bigfoot.
I've got a new one. If I got nothing else,
if I don't make it after this video, help me. All right. Well, I guess I'm apparently your interviewer, Jesse Elder. Peace and power. That's the Kevin Nations.
thanks, guys. Thanks, Jesse.